Okay, now, does anyone remember from last time what this thing goes to? How many people say 1? How many people say 0? All right, it's 0. That's my favorite number. All right, 0. It's the easiest number to deal with. So this goes to 0. And that's what happens as delta x tends to 0. Now, how about this one? This one goes to 1, my second favorite number. Almost as easy to deal with as 0. And these things are picked for a reason. They're the simplest numbers to deal with. So altogether, this thing, as delta x goes to 0, goes to what? I want a single person to answer, a brave volunteer. All right, right back there. Cosine. Because this factor is 0, it cancels, and this factor has a 1, so it's cosine. So it's cosine x. All right, so our conclusion over here, I'll put it in orange, is that the derivative of the sine is the cosine. All right? Okay, now I still want to label these very important limit facts here. This one we'll call A, and this one we're going to call B, because we haven't checked them yet. I promised you I would do that, and I'll have to do that this time. So we're relying on those things being true. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the cosine function, except in order to do it, I'm going to have to remember the sum rule for cosine. So we're going to do almost the same calculation here. We're going to see that that will work out. But now you have to remember that cosine of A plus B is equal to cosine cosine. No, it's not cosine squared, because there are two different quantities here. It's cosine A cosine B minus, here's the minus sign, sine A sine B. All right. So you'll have to be willing to call those forth at will right now. So OK, so let's do the cosine now. So that's cosine x plus delta x minus cosine x divided by delta x. OK, there's the difference quotient for the cosine function. And now I'm going to do the same thing I did before, except I'm going to apply the second rule, that is the sum rule for cosine. And that's going to give me cosine x cosine delta x minus sine x sine delta x. And then I have to remember, again, to subtract the cosine divided by this delta x. And now I'm going to regroup just the way I did before. And I get the common factor of cosine multiplying cosine delta x minus 1 divided by delta x. And here I get the sine x, but actually it's minus sine x. And then I have sine delta x divided by delta x. All right? The only difference is this minus sign, which I stuck inside there. Well, that's not the only difference, but it's a crucial difference. OK, again, by A, we get that this is 0, as delta x tends to 0, and this is 1. Those are the properties I called A and B. And so the result here, as delta x tends to 0, is that we get negative sine x. That's the factor, negative sine x. All right, so this guy is negative sine x. Now I'll put a little box around that too. All right, now these formulas take a little bit of getting used to, and but before I do that, I'm going to explain to you the proofs of A and B.